Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. It's that time once again for my Gran Turismo 7 updated wishlist, this time for update 1.43. Now, between updates I'll typically come out with these videos where I sort of take a review at where GT7 is at and come out with my own wishlist for the updates going forward. Now this kind of changes as things get added or removed or anything like that. Now this is going to be solely for things that I thought of and key things that I feel like really need to be changing in GT7 going forward to make it an overall better product and kind of listen to the overall fan base. Now don't forget to leave your suggestions down below because I will be taking them and making a community wishlist video, and I'll be interested to hear some of the best ones. So if you do have a personal wishlist or a personal thing that you want to see come to GT7, then feel free to list it down below in as much detail as possible and I will pick the best of the bunch to go into my monthly community wishlist. So with the introduction out of the way, let's get into the video. Point number one is going to be something that I feel like is a fairly hot topic at the minute, and for me it's going to have to be a BOP review, and that includes the settings and tuning as well. Now if you don't know what BOP is, it's essentially there to make the cars as balanced as possible, and whilst in a sense it does achieve this, it doesn't either. It's a really weird, bizarre situation. So if you do run these cars without BOP off, let's just use Group 4 for a example, there is a massive diversity in time. So you'll see, let's say a 130, but then another Group 4 car might be popping out a 140 to 150. You know, BOP in that sense does make the cars a lot more balanced. However, there is still flaws in that system. Now recently Polyphony's gone on to obviously turn on tuning and such quite often in some of these daily races with BOP on. This for me just doesn't help the situation. It makes it even worse. If we use daily race B for example this week, it's at Deep Forest Reverse and it's pretty much a Mazda 1 Mate Cup, and it's a case where if you can't beat them you kind of have to join them. The majority of these lobbies will be absolutely infested with Mazdas, and if you ain't in that Mazda you are going to lose a ton of time because that thing is insanely quick in a straight line and absolutely unbeatable. Again, that is typically down to the BOP, considering it's just suspension changes that we actually have enabled, but again couple that with a decent suspension setup and you're absolutely going to be flying away from the rest of the field. So that has just kind of made the situation overall worse. I certainly think a review in BOP is massively needed, and I feel like the best way to do it, so if we use Group 4 for an example once again, we have a group full of, you know, front wheel drive, four wheel drive and rear wheel drive. There's no set spec to those vehicles. There's a bunch of different drivetrains on offer, a bunch of different body styles. Some cars look more touring car like, some look GT like, and I certainly think streamlining the classes, so we'll see like a TCR class, a GT4 class, would definitely make that group in general much better. So split from the group categories, turn it into a TCR class, GT4 class, so on and so forth. This would allow a, I guess, more streamlined amount of vehicles and would certainly allow them to absolutely nail those BOPs in those set classes, considering they will be much smaller, meaning that typically you should get much better and closer rating, meaning that more options will become viable. I feel like Group 4 is just absolutely cluttered with insanely random vehicles. You know, you've got some real world ones, some that represent a GT4 car, some that are TCR, four-wheel drive cars that are rocket off the line. You know, it's very difficult to actually get the BOP right when a class is so diverse. So I certainly think, you know, streamlining these classes into smaller classes, focusing on the BOP to get it absolutely spot on, and then suspension changes and such will be absolutely fantastic. You know, for me it does represent more real world racing. Getting a decent suspension change and suspension setup for a race at each individual track obviously is something that happens in real world, even with balance of performance being a real thing. So this certainly needs to be looked at. I certainly think streamline the classes, have the tuning enabled in these smaller classes, and then again it's all down to driver knowledge and driver skill as well. So yeah, certainly needs a BOP review for sure. Okay, so this one you'll know about if you've joined me for my weekly challenge guides. This for me is a massive thing that they're just missing out on. Special events are basically a weekly thing now where they're pretty much all one mates, whether that be Tesla, Radicals, Porsches, the Civic touring cars and such. They're absolutely fantastic and they take me back to the Gran Turismo games of old where we had manufacturer approved improved events and such, which were absolutely amazing. Unfortunately, these disappear after every single week. I certainly want to see Polyphony turn these into a menu book, or just have the events continue in game. Don't just let them disappear and become absolutely irrelevant. It feels like a lot of wasted actual events. You know, some of the best races in the game are these one mates. The Radicals are fantastic for, you know, one mate racing. The Civics as well. You know, the Porsches, they're a great sort of road going race car sort of feel to them. They're absolutely spot on. The racing on the harder difficulties is insanely close. It's probably the best that AI actually is in terms of GT7, apart from obviously the Sophie AI thing, but in terms of the standard AI, they're absolutely fantastic. I would love to see these turned into a menu book. So recently I went back to GT7 on a second account. I wanted to play through the game as a new player coming into the game in 2024 to see how it compared to my experience in 2022 when the game just felt like a bit of a hot mess. And whilst it is much better overall, and there's many more ways to make money and actually progress through the game and feel like you can actually enjoy the game, overall, one thing I've noticed when going back was the mission challenges. These are a feature that has not been touched ever since I think around about month 2 of the game's release. The last bunch of mission challenges we had was the 1 hour endurance races, and since then it's not been touched yet. Going back through these, they were absolutely fantastic. I would love to see these come in on maybe a bi-monthly basis where we just get a brand new bunch of mission challenges to go ahead and tackle. You know, they've already gone back and added a master license test with 50 more licenses, so something like a mission challenges, whether it's the high speed one, whether it's the overtaking ones, whether it's more endurance races mixed in, drag races, drift, you know, definitely put these in. And that kind of, you know, I guess gets 2 birds with 1 stone, because there's a lot of people wanting drag racing, there's a lot of people wanting drift racing. If these are added in every other month alongside normal typical events, you've got things like drag racing and drifting covered in there. You know, there is some great ways to earn a few extra credits, do something different in game other than just kind of lapping the track in a typical sense. There's a lot of diverse challenges there, and I would love to see them come in more and more, as well as reward us with some reward cards for tackling these. So mission challenges, would absolutely love to see more of these. Okay, so let's move on to point number 4, I believe, and this is going to be endurance races. Now, I kind of covered those in the mission challenges because they did come in as they kind of own separate thing. I would certainly see, I'd love to see really, some proper endurance races come to the game. You know, the last, I guess, long race that we really had was like over a year ago with the 30 minutes at Road Atlanta, sorry, and since then we've not really had any events of really worth our time. You know, we do get longer events come in, but again they range from anywhere maximum of 15 to 20 minutes, which just isn't long enough. You know, you've got a whole tire physics simulation here, you've got tire wear, fuel wear, night and day, rain, and I just feel like it's not taken advantage of enough. And this should also allow other tracks to be then, you know, rain enabled and, you know, time of day enabled as well. You know, I want to see endurance events of upwards of 4, 8, 12 hours, 24 hours. You know, I want those grindy events back. And whilst okay to the more casual player, they might not want to kind of slog around doing them, I certainly think now we have upwards of 20 cars on the grid in comparison to the likes of Gran Turismo 4 and 5, 6 and all that kind of lot. It will definitely be a much better overall time, and GT7 just feels like the perfect game to have this in, as well as adding the addition of multi-class races. This was something Grid Legends added post launch in a DLC pack, and it was just absolutely fantastic. Just unfortunately that game doesn't necessarily take advantage of it in the areas that it should have done. GT7 with its diverse range of cars would be absolutely spot on for multi-class. You know, I run racing leagues that run multi-class all the time, and in terms of GT7 and the way that the game handles it, it would be absolutely amazing to see this implemented alongside endurance events as well. Okay, so this is a bit of an old point, and I feel like ever since the update after the Spec 2 update came along, it's left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. This needs to be a payout review. So what do I realistically explicitly mean by that. If we look at the payouts in this game, they are all over the place and absolutely scattered about. We've got a 30-minute race that pays out half than another 30-minute race, even though it's running more high power classes. You've got, 10 lap events that pay out, less than some 5 lap events. In all honesty, it just really makes no sense, and the economy just feels like it is all over the place. If they honestly want to keep the single player crowd going and grinding for these cars and the more expensive cars, payout reviews and I guess a bit of a rebalance of the economy is massively needed. This has been an issue that's kind of plagued the game since day one, and whilst it was then I guess made a bit better, it's been ignored for another year, made a bit better, and then patched once again because of a glitch. So yeah, certainly need a payout review. We certainly need an economy review. Again, you can't keep putting up the prices of cars to upwards of 20 million, but yet paying us with events that take 20 minutes to complete and only pay out 200,000 credits. Nobody in their right mind is going to want to do that. They're then just going to want to wait around for the next big glitch, take advantage of it, and then buy up all the cars. Even myself, that's exactly what I did, because why not? I don't want to sit there for 10-15 hours grinding out the same event over and over again just to end up with one single car to show for it. So certainly needs to look out at upping the amount of endurance events with my previous point, and also kind of revamping the economy, because it is just so all over the place and almost nonsensical at times. Now this is one that I'm surprised the game doesn't have, considering tuning seems to be a key element of the game, and it's now being implemented more and more into daily races as well. Shareable tunes. I don't get why this isn't a part of the game. If we look at some of the, I guess, more casual players that might want to jump into sport mode and maybe improve and become more serious at it, if you've got tuning enabled for suspension changes and such, why can the better players or the players with more knowledge on that subject not go ahead and share those tunes? See, my thinking is, when it comes to this, if you get a more casual player that might want to improve over time but doesn't have a clue about suspension changes, but they want to race seriously, then allowing the better players to share their tunes might get that player more invested in the game. They might feel more comfortable, their driving might improve over time, as well as single player as well. It's a key factor of the game, is getting to that PP limit and tuning your car correctly for each individual track. Sharing tunes definitely feels like it is something that needs to be in this game. We can share liveries, we can share photos, so why can we not go ahead and share our tuning sheet? And this is going to lead me quite nicely into my final subject of this video, and that is going to be pay out the creators. Now, what do I mean by this? I don't mean someone like me that does YouTube and stuff. That's just absolutely stupid. What I mean by this is the people that go ahead and make liveries, race photos, replays, tunes and stuff like that. If we did have that enabled to obviously be shareable, paying those creators back for their time that they put into the game would certainly get people more invested in making more and more of these amazing liveries. Like I've said in a previous video as well, I've had some of these liveries on my cars for almost 2 years. There's a bunch of creators that I'll go to. I've got a guy that literally slogs away making 40 to 50 car liveries just for my racing league for over a 2-day every 2-week weekend, and he sees nothing in return in terms of in-game credits or anything like that from us guys going ahead and downloading his liveries. Obviously, when it comes to decals, the player has to actually put out sometimes upwards of 10 to 20,000 credits to get that livery on that car. So why is that not being given back to the creator? I feel like rewarding players for how many likes they get, how many shares they get, how many downloads they get on liveries, tunes and all that kind of stuff would be absolutely fantastic, and I feel like it just keeps them motivated and keeps them rewarded in game to continue doing these amazing designs and things that these players do. Honestly, massive thank you to you guys that do all the liveries. Without you guys, honestly, I would probably be bored of a majority of these cars, but you just make them look absolutely fantastic. So yeah, Polyphony, just give back to those creators that are taking these 10, 15, 20 hours to whip up these liveries sometimes. Please just give back to them. So there we have it. That is my personal wish list for update 1.43 and beyond. Don't forget to leave your suggestions down below. I will be taking the best ones. In terms of individual cars, don't ask for them. Again, whilst we can all sit there and say we want more up-to-date GT3 and GT4, yeah, there's a fat chance of that happening, let's be honest. Give me key points, quality of life changes, things you want to see, events, tuning, who knows, different things. Again, the more unique unique ones, the more chance it is to be featured in that video. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.